A war is never a wanted thing, for the fact that many innocent people are killed, many are widowed, and many are homeless. And if you think of the discoveries of the World War, the first thing that comes in our mind is the atomic bomb. In August 1945, the United States launched its first and so far the only nuclear attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing about 1 to 2 lakhs people. While the bombs are known for their devastating impact, there were many other non-lethal innovations during the World War in the fields of medicine that drastically reshaped the world, and we are benefited till today. It's said that necessity is the mother of invention, and that's exactly what happened during the war. Many soldiers had to lose their life due to infections and shock. So the scientists were put in pressure by the government to find out a way to solve these problems. Some of these innovations were based on research or designs, whereas most of them were serendipity. So today, we present you how World War gave a push to medicine advancement by talking about some of the revolutionary discoveries that were made during the World War. A soldier losing his life was a great cost during the World War for our country, and the most common cause for the death were infections and shock due to massive blood loss in the battlefield. Dealing with these complications were kind of really tough job those days, so armies hired scientists and spent a lot of their budget for those complications. So talking about the discoveries, the first one was the penicillin. Previously, when antibiotics were not discovered, even a small wound and cut was really dreadful. There were dangerous bacterial infections on the contaminated wound, leading ultimately to sepsis and death. Alexander Fleming was growing some bacteria in his laboratory to study them, and one day they were accidentally contaminated by a fungus. Upon keen observation after a few days, it was seen that the fungus killed the bacterial colony, and that's how he discovered penicillin. And the penicillin is named after the fungus Penicillium notatum that was able to destroy the bacterial colony. And this is exactly how antibiotics era started, and later many other chemical compounds were found having similar activity of killing bacteria. The Scottish scientist Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928, but the United States began its mass production as a medical treatment only after the World War II. After the war, the civilians too gained access to this life-saving drug. The second discovery was the flu vaccine. The influenza pandemic of 1918 and 1919 had a major effect on World War I, and this motivated the US military to develop the first flu vaccine. The scientists began to isolate flu viruses in the 1930s and 1940s, and they developed a vaccine against them. So yes, the first flu vaccine for military use was approved in 1945 and for the civilian use in 1946. One of the lead researchers on this project was Jonas Salk, the US scientist who would later develop the polio vaccine. The third and the most important discovery were the discovery of the blood banks. During the World War, the other cause of death, apart from infections in the battlefield, was massive blood loss, leading to hemorrhagic shock and death. So previously, doctors rarely performed blood transfusion prior to World War I. And in the meantime, Captain Oswald Robertson, who was a US Army doctor, established the first blood bank in 1917. Doctor found out that the shelf life of the blood can be extended by refrigeration or freezing. And to facilitate the storage, the blood was kept on ice for up to 28 days, and sodium citrate, which is an anticoagulant, that means the agent that prevents blood from clotting, was added in order to prevent clotting, and that is how the blood could be stored and later were given to the wounded soldiers. This really contributed in decreasing the mortality rate of the soldiers. The fourth invention was the invention of blood plasma transfusion. So why was this discovery really significant? We could just transfuse the whole blood and not just the fragments like the plasma or the clotting factors, right? But there's a significance to this, and let me tell you. See, the problem with the whole blood transfusion was, first of all, it was really time consuming to find the proper blood type for the recipient, since there's this concept of transfusion reactions and hemolysis. So during the World War II, a US surgeon named Charles Drew standardized the production of blood plasma for medical use. And unlike the whole blood, plasma can be given to anyone regardless of a person's blood type, making it really easier to administer on the battlefield. This indeed was a revolutionary idea that saved many soldiers in the battlefield, and also reduced the complications of hemolytic reactions due to mismatching of the blood transfusions. The next discovery was the discovery of sanitary pads. During a European tour in 1914, Kimberly Clark, he discovered a material made from processed wood pulp that was 5 times more absorbent than the cotton and costed half as much to produce. With cotton in short supply during the World War I, the company trademarked the crimped wadding as cellulose cotton and sold it to American military for surgical dressing. However, the Red Cross nurses found another use for the cotton substitute as makeshift sanitary pads. After the war's conclusion, Kimberly Clark repurchased this cellulose cotton in a surplus amount from the military, and in 1920 he launched its first commercial product, Kotex, which shortly stands for cotton texture, sanitary pads that were made from 40 piles of cellulose cotton, hand wrapped in a fine gauze. It was really liked by women as it was more durable than the normal cotton, and this is exactly how sanitary pads were invented. Talking about last but not the least discovery were the stainless steel. So during the war, the British military was in search of harder alloys for their guns so they would be less susceptible to distortion from the heat and friction of firing. So there was this English metallurgist, Harry Brearley, who discovered that adding chromium to molten iron produces steel that wouldn't rust, and this made the stainless steel more durable. Even though stainless steels were previously not used for guns, its use was during the World War I to manufacture aircraft engines, mess kit silverware, and medical instruments that really launched the popularity of use of stainless steel. And now we all can see that almost all the surgical instruments that doctors use are made from stainless steel, as they don't easily rust and also they're easy to sterilize. So that's a really important property for stainless steel. That's all for today. Hope you liked the video and it was kind of informative too. If you liked it, do give it a thumbs up and leave a subscription down below if you haven't subscribed yet. Motivate us and help us make more such videos. Till then, made it for you.